Leland's all confused. You thought it was on Mark chapter 1, verse 1, didn't you?
I thought you were Matthew.
That's been, well, you missed a lot. No, we're already in Mark. No, the Sunday that,
Well, let's go back.
well, let's pray to that. I had enough confusion with it the last time. I'm trying to get away from it. No, a couple of Sundays ago when, had to take Melba to the hospital real quick on Sunday night, so me and Colin flipped a coin or whatever, and I took the class and he took the talk, and that's what we did. And so I did my this Wednesday night class on Sunday night. So I treat them all the way down to verse 21. I got really more confused now. Anyway, first thing, Mark, I always wanted to classify it as a Reader's Digest sample of Matthew, but anyways, others have criticized me on that, so that he does include things that Matthew doesn't include, but it is a lot shorter version of the accounts of Jesus, which only, I think, we have 16 chapters in it. But the last time we met, when it was on Sunday night, we talked about the Mark's account, the early life of Jesus, his baptism, his selecting of some of the apostles, and now we're down to verse 21, where he begins his teaching. So they went into Capernaum. And immediately on the Sabbath he entered the synagogue and began to teach. They were amazed at his teaching, for he was teaching them as one having authority, not as the scribes. Now what's the difference between teaching with authority and teaching like a scribe? Evidently there was a very, very big difference here.
I would think the scribes would be teaching from something that they had heard, and his authority came from.
His authority came from heaven. The scribes, a lot of from what I understand, of course, none of us that are here was there then, but from history, a lot of times their teaching was simply the reading of part of the old law. And they were just repeating what they either heard or what they had read. And Jesus, he was in on all the writing and all the stuff, and he taught with authority. He was someone who knew what he was talking about.
There are teachers, and then there are teachers.
Yes.
That's the way I perceive it.
Now listen to this closely if I don't get it messed up. A guy told me this one time. He said you can tell all the difference in the world in a guy that has something to say and a guy that gets up because he has to say something. There's all the difference in the world. And that's kind of stuck with me. I think I got it straight. But anyway, you can tell him, guy, if he got something, Jesus had something to say. He wasn't up there just because, well, nobody else takes the place, so he had to get up there and say something. He had something to say. Yes, then there are teachers and there are teachers. And they probably don't know, but the kids can tell the difference. But the teachers won't believe it or not. Kids can tell the difference. I had history classes all the way through grade school and high school, maybe one or two already in college. And I believe his name was Mr. Hogan. He was the first history teacher I ever had. And I liked history. He really made it interesting. Because most of the places you talked about, he had been there. And so there's lots of stuff added to it. Liberty Bell, all those things, he'd been there. And I really enjoyed his class. been a long time ago, believe it or not. Tomorrow, I may not remember his name today, it just jumped out at me, you know.
Oh, I thought you were remembering the Liberty Bell.
No,
I'm sorry.
no, he was there when they cracked it, I think, but I think it's still out.
I was there after you cracked it.
Okay. Verse 23, just then there was a man in the synagogue with an unclean spirit, and he cried out. Saying, what business do we have with each other, Jesus of Nazareth? Have you come to destroy us? I know who you are, the Holy One of God. And Jesus rebuked him, saying, be quiet and come out of him. Throwing him into convulsions, the unclean spirit cried out in a loud voice and came out of him. Now, this man wasn't, he wasn't afflicted with some kind of mental disease or some kind of physical disease. We have people today who are have mental problems. Nothing shameful about that is this. People have them. We have people who have physical problems. It causes convulsions. It causes seizures, things of this nature. That's not what this guy had. He had demons. And the demons knew who Jesus was. What does the scripture talk about? He said, if you believe in God, you do good, but even the devils believe and tremble.
James.
What you have it, Colin, you want to say something?
In the first or second chapter of James,
Okay.
early part of it.
Yeah, even the devils believe and tremble.
Look at where this guy was.
Yeah.
He's in the synagogue.
He's in the synagogue. He's possessed with a demon.
I find that very interesting. You know,
Okay.
usually those with unclean spirits, Jesus meets on the way from here to there.
Okay.
This guy, or in a graveyard, or coming out of the cave. This guy's in church.
Okay.
See, we have no indication in Scripture on exactly how what we call demon possession looked. We have different views that we see throughout Scripture, but, you know, for example, when Judas has the devil himself come into him and everything, he's just there in the midst of everybody. There's no outward sign that there's anything going on. That kind of is the same picture you see here. This guy's just in church, he's in the synagogue. So they're not always, when they're possessed by a demon, or acting nuts and going crazy.
Okay.
This guy's functioning in public.
He's functioning in public. Okay. But the demon knew who Jesus was. He said, what business do we have with each other? There's a good question. What business did Jesus and the demon have in common? Was anything in common? Anybody going to venture out on that?
The demons were against God.
Demons were against God?
The one thing they had in common, that they were both in the synagogue.
They were both in the synagogue. They were both in search of souls. Think about that. The demon had this guy. Jesus wanted him back. That's the business they had in common. What? They were both. The devil's in search of souls just like God's in search of souls. Yes, they were both in the synagogue. They knew who each other was. verse 27, this is talking about the rest of the people. They were all amazed, so that they debated among themselves, saying, what is this? A new teaching with authority. He commands even the unclean spirits, and they obey him. Immediately the news about him spread everywhere in all the surrounding district of Galilee. So this caused quite a stir. This is something that they had witnessed other people having demons, and nobody was able to do anything about it. And here was a man who could do something about it. I've got a question, and it's not a facetious, but were there demons before the time of Christ?
That's what we talked about the last 2 weeks on Sunday morning. Quick answer is 1 Corinthians 10:20, I believe, where it talks about pagan gods of the Old Testament, and he references them specifically as demons.
Okay.
And so in Deuteronomy 13, for example, when he says that do not go after these false gods, those false gods were demons.
Okay.
And so they just used different terminology to refer to them back then, but those gods, they said, had prophets and had followers that had power that were given to them by those gods, the demons. And so God, in short, God told them not to go after other powerful beings. The word for God is powerful beings there. And he called those powerful beings just that, gods. And 1 Corinthians tells us that they were demons. And over again throughout the Old Testament, we see followers of these pagan gods having what we would call mystical powers and things that were otherworldly, signs, wonders, and things like that, foretelling of the future that came true. All those things, and that power is said to come from those false gods, which were demons.
Verse 29. Immediately they came out, they start all over again. And immediately after they came out of the synagogue, they came in the house of Simon and Andrew with James and John. Now Simon's mother-in-law was lying sick with a fever, and immediately they spoke to Jesus about her. And he came to her and raised her up, taking her by the hand, and the fever left her, and she waited on them. Just stop right there. Okay, they go into Simon and Andrew's house. And were their 5 brothers. And Peter's mother-in-law is lying there sick with some other, she's got a fever. And Jesus heals her. What is the significance of all of this? First off, Jesus had the power over the illness. He had the power over the demons before. But there's something that's very deep here that concerns us today, and doctrines of other people, doctrines they have today.
Peter was married.
Peter was married. How do you know he was married? It didn't say it.
Mother-in-law.
Had a mother-in-law. Now you can get a wife that doesn't, her mother's already deceased. You can get a wife without having a mother-in-law. But you can't get a mother-in-law without getting a wife first. That's just all there is to it. Isn't that right, Pat? That's just the law of nature. If you get a mother-in-law, you've got a wife. So that's the first thing.
She must have been a good mother-in-law too, because he chose to heal her.
Yeah, he chose to heal her, yeah.
Yeah.
Are you saying you had a bad mother-in-law?
No, not at all. I've just heard different stories
Okay, yeah.
about people.
I had a good one.
You had a good one too. I've said this before, everybody already had a mother-in-law like I had.
Yeah.
Because every argument me and Becky ever got in, she took my side. Everyone. Everyone. And Becky will tell you the same thing.
So does that make my mother-in-law a bad mother-in-law?
No.
Is that what you're saying?
No, I didn't. I just said everybody deserves one as good as the one I had. Well, they may not deserve it. They may not be worthy of having a good mother-in-law. But anyway,
Sometimes you get what you deserve.
Bertha, sometimes you get what you deserve. Okay, that'll go.
Caleb said they were holding his breath too long.
But anyway, every argument, I can see Becky back there. And I don't know if she's here or not, but she'll agree with me. Every argument we've ever had, we've had some.
I just always had the attitude that if you're talking about mothers-in-law, you probably just need to move on pretty quickly.
Yeah. But she, like, that's no joke, she took up my side of whatever argument we ever had.
But you said you can't get a mother-in-law without having a wife.
Yeah,
If you can figure out how to get a wife without getting a mother-in-law, lots of guys will take you up on
well,
it.
you can do that if you wait till she gets old enough, her mother's passed away. You can do that.
So you just wait her out.
Well, you might wait too long, she might decide to just get somebody else. I don't know what he said. He wouldn't-
Let's move on.
It couldn't have been good, whatever it was.
What about his father-in-law?
He's got the best father-in-law anybody ever had, right?
That's not what he said.
I'll tell you that's what he did. You know, he goes from the top of my wheel to the bottom of my wheel, it's pretty frequent. When evening came, and after the sun had set, they began bringing to him all who were ill, and those who were demon possessed, and the whole city had gathered at the door. And he healed many who were ill with various diseases, and cast out many demons. And he was not permitting the demons to speak because they knew who he was. And you notice here, Mark, in his account, he differentiates between sick people and demon-possessed people. And there are people today who know someone who maybe have a mental disease or a debilitating physical disease, and then, well, they must be possessed with a demon. Mark differentiates there was sick people, and there was also people who was possessed by demons. There was a difference. In that day and time, in many cases, they were bad to associate a demon or an illness upon some kind of sin that either the person did or whether the parents did. And then one of the accounts talks about a young man, he was 40, I believe, who had been born with his legs, was paralyzed. His legs never wasn't useful. And that was the question, who sinned? This guy or his parents? Well, that isn't necessarily, it's just one of those things that happens. Here it says the whole city gathered at the door. Everybody wanted to, if they didn't need to be healed, they had somebody who didn't need to be healed, and they also wanted to see it happen. They want to be a part of it, they want a witness of these things.
I think it's very interesting, verse 28, that's when the news started to spread,
Yes.
and it seems like the same day. That evening they were at.
Yeah, it said immediately after they came out of the synagogue. News spreads fast. Especially something that's very unusual. It's just the way the people are.
Yeah, where's I was thinking about something, I don't know, you know, there's a lot of things that are the same today that there were then.
Yeah?
That, you know, and I don't know if there are demons nowadays or not. You hear, like you said, you hear people talk about different
Yeah.
things and equate it to being
Yeah.
a demon or whatever. But the other thing about that is what all these people were seeing here and doing, we all need that today.
Yeah.
We all need to come and see what the Lord is
Yeah.
about and what He can do for our lives and how He can heal us of oppression or depression or whatever the things are in our lives that trouble us. That is definitely all need to come to Him to find Him.
Right, you're right.
Thirdly, I don't know if you know the answer to this or not, I've never looked into it on the time frame here between the testaments. But I would venture to guess that it would be a lot longer time frame between ending of the Old Testament events to this time of Jesus, as probably the biggest time gap we have in Scripture. I would, at least I would guess.
I think it's 400 or 500 years.
I think that's about it. I don't think that there's a bigger gap in the Old Testament that I can think of between when the Jewish people would have seen prophets and people performing miracles and things like that coming and going. You have more generations in between that have never seen this kind of thing, and here Jesus comes on the scene, and they're amazed.
Yeah.
You know, this is not something that even their grandparents would have been talking to them about.
Go back to what you talked about a while ago, I've been on my readings in Jeremiah, and Jeremiah said, now there's gonna be prophets that saying this is exactly the opposite of what I said. God said, He's not talking to them, He's talking to me. You know, so they were false prophets then, you know. Just like we got false preachers today. Okay, next